and I'm at my favorite place, which is Sewing Creations, in front of my sewing machine, doing my most favorite thing, and that is sewing. Isn't this a beautiful little dress, this smocked bishop? I smocked this on the sewing machine, and haven't you wished that you could produce these things for your precious little ones, your grandchildren or your children? Well, I'm here to teach you how to do this. And look at the bonnet here. It has the same smocking on it. I have done this with a sewing machine now, and I'm not talking about one of the expensive embroidery machines, although they're quite wonderful, but if you don't have one, you can still produce such a garment as this. First of all, what I did was I took out just a regular ordinary bishop pattern, and at this time I'm making a size 3 months. Well, I picked my fabric out, which I am using Victoria's Batiste, which is 100% cotton, and I've got my dress almost completely constructed. I like to construct my dress before I do my smocking, because then when I get through smocking I'm almost completely finished and ready to use the dress or give it as a gift or whatever I intend to do with it. So what I'm going to do now is I have cut my dress out, I've put it together, and then I pleated it on my pleater. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to my cutting table, and I'm going to use some wash away stabilizer, the kind that dissolves in water. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it to the back of it, and then I'm going to sew, because when I stick it to the back, that's going to keep my pleats in place so that I can do my stitching. And I'm going to be using the sewing machine and just some decorative stitches. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I prepared my dress and my bonnet. As I've already told you, I pleated my dress, and then I had to put it on my board here and block it. You'll notice that this board has, underneath here, has the shape of the neck of this bishop dress, so I laid it on here and blocked it. We'll cover all of that in another session, but right now I'm just going to show you how to do the machine smocking. So now I am finishing blocking my bonnet so that I can stick, and I have made this for the 3-month size, so that when I get through blocking it, I'm going to put my stabilizer on, which once again, as I said before, this is wash away sticky, and I'm actually using Aqua Magic Plus. Okay, so now I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to cut my stabilizer for my dress, because what I'll do is I will stick it on the underneath part of my dress. And if you'll see where it looks like some of this doesn't match up exactly, remember, everything is not perfect, and there's always a way to fix something. So when I get ready to stick this onto my stabilizer, I will even this out a little more and make sure when I start to sew that when I get there, I can cut off my knots of my pleating thread, because it won't matter, I'm already stitching, and I'll have it on my sticky stabilizer. I'm just going to cut a piece that's going to fit half my bishop here, and then a piece that's going to fit it half on the other way. That's being a little more economical than trying to cut a circle. And it doesn't matter, because it's going to all wash away anyway. I have to peel off my the protection side of the sticky stabilizer, and this is the kind of stabilizer that we use when we're doing on the embroidery machine. I say I'm going to peel it off. Yep, here we go. Okay. You see how it is? It's very sticky, very sticky. Now, when you're hand smocking, you need to know exactly where the center is, but when you're machine smocking, I haven't found that it really makes much of a difference. I don't want to press my pleats too hard, because when I flip it over then, I'm going to reposition some of it. Oops, here we go again, trying to get the sticky loose. I'm sure none of you have ever had this problem. Here we go. Okay. Now I chose this time to make the bishop with the placket in the back. It's a little bit harder to run it through my pleater and keep it all like it's supposed to be, but I prefer that sometimes, or I do like the one that buttons all the way down the back, and we'll do that one later. Okay, now let me see if I can cut off some of this extra stuff here so it won't get in my way. trying to use my paper scissors instead of my good ones that I use for sewing. And this won't gum my needle up too much. I've done it several times. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it over, and you see how neat my pleats look? So what I'll do now is I have a few little areas here that I need to straighten out with my pick. But once again, as I said, when I start sewing them, it will look just as good. And when I get to it, I'll make this, pull my pleats over a little bit to cover up this little area and this one. Because like I say, it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, and you can straighten it up and make it look really good when you're working on it. Because nobody does everything perfect. And we don't want to make it seem too awful complicated, because we want you to be comfortable doing it and enjoy it. Remember, sewing is supposed to be very soothing and just like going to therapy. I love it. Okay, let's see now. Straighten these out right here in this little area. When I get there, I'm going to have to pretend that I have some pleats and make it come over here a little bit, because I want it to go almost all the way up to where my buttons are going to be. See how I was able to fix that? And it might look a little strange, but once I get my stitching done, it'll look fine. Because, you know, as the old saying is, one of our friends here at the shop is always saying, when it's on a galloping horse, who's going to know the difference? Because we don't all stand at attention all the time. Okay, now this is my little pleating, the knots on my pleating thread, because when I pleated this, I had to leave one of the shoulder seams open to get it in the pleater, and after that, then I split it down the back and put in my placket. Let's see if I can get some more of this out. Because when I'm sewing, I'm going to have to turn my curves a little bit, and I don't want to be stuck up all to it. Okay, so now I am ready to start stitching. Now what I'm going to do when I start to stitch this, now when you're hand smocking, it makes a big difference. You have to hand smock right on your pleating rows. Well, now when we're machine smocking, that's not going to make a big difference. So if your pleating rows happen to get a little bit crooked, it doesn't make a big difference. What we're going to do is we're going to use the neckline as our guide. Let me straighten this out a little bit. We're going to use the neckline as our guide to start off stitching. And then we will use my buttons are going to go right here. That's why this is looking a little funky here, but it will be okay. We're going to use this as our guide for our first line of stitching. Then I'm going to use my presser foot on my sewing machine to show where my next line is, and I'll continue to do that until I get my whole dress smocked on the sewing machine. And if I need to, I will move my needle a little to the left or a little to the right to adjust my width. Okay, now when I come back, I will take my bonnet and I will cut me a piece of stabilizer and stick it on the back and do it, because when I'm doing in fact, you know, I should do that now, because when I'm doing my dress and I stitch one color thread and a certain design, I want to take it off and go ahead and continue doing the exact same thing on my bonnet without having to go back and change my threads and do all that kind of stuff. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little bit different way to put the bonnet on the sticky. I'm going to stick this to my board here and do it this way so that I can lay out my pleats. And I want to make sure that I get it on the left side. And once again, it does not matter if you have where your center is, because we're not doing a design that it really makes a big difference. This bonnet might look a little big, but you know how that is. Some babies have, like some adults, they have a big head. Okay, so I'm going to kind of straighten my pleats out. And once again, as I'm putting this on here, if my rows are a little bit crooked, remember, I'm going to be using my presser foot to guide me and keep it straight. I'm not going to particularly be looking at my pleating lines. And if this one doesn't turn out great, hey, we'll do another one. Because remember, it's not like hand smocking. It's much faster. Now, one reason that I like to have my dress done first of all is, what if I have went to the trouble to cut my little dress out, pleat it, and hand smock it, and then I go to putting it together, and uh-oh, I made a big mistake, and I made some kind of error that's going to mess it up. I have wasted all that hand smocking. So this way, you can make your dress and then smock it. Okay, that looks pretty good. It might not be exactly straight, but like I say, once again, when I get through, you tell me how it looks. And if you want yours a lot straighter, then you just work on it a little bit longer. But I can tell you that when you get through, it's not really going to make that much difference. I probably need to bring this down just a little bit more. One thing about the sticky stabilizer, I can start and stop, start and stop. And see, and once I just push this down like this here, it just puts my pleats right down there, because they're going to be all stitched together. Okay, now let's go. Let's go back to the sewing machine. Okay, now here we are back to the sewing machine, and I'm getting ready to do my stitching. Now I am choosing to use DMC thread, which is 100% cotton, and it's a 50 weight. When you're doing your heirloom sewing like this and all, you don't want a shiny thread like your polyester or your rayon embroidery thread. We tried that at one time when we first started doing the machine smocking, and believe me, it's come a long ways. Now with the cotton thread, it looks so much better. And I'm choosing to do my dress in different shades of pink. I tried some yellow on my sample. I made a sample, and just like scribbling on paper, I was scribbling with the sewing machine, and I tried the yellow, and it doesn't show up hardly at all. It just didn't look good to suit me. The green looks pretty, but I'm going to stick to strictly pinks, different shades of pinks. You can choose any color, because as you know, with threads, you can get any color you want. Okay, now I'm going to start off with my darker pink. What I'm going to do is, I have pleated me a little sample here, and I'm going to pull off some stabilizer and put on that and try a few stitches. Also, I have my tablet and my pencil, because when I choose a design, I am going to write down what my stitch length is and what design I have, so that in the future I can go back, or suppose I had to quit sewing today and I want to finish it up next week, I'm not going to remember what stitch because I have nothing telling me. So I'm going to write down this. And another thing you might want to do is, you notice I'm using a pencil. Well, those nice little ballpoint pens and ink pens, sometimes they do get ink in different places, and we don't want it on our project. So I'm using a pencil. I'm also going to be using my open toe applique foot. I like that because on the back it has a tray for your stitching to go through, and I can see better of what I'm doing. Now another thing that I have done is I have went in and made my tension on the top a little bit less, maybe 2 or 3 points. You have to determine how it works on your own sewing machine, because what we don't want to do is, we don't want our stitches to get buried down in our pleats. Okay, now I think I'm ready to do my sample. Another thing that I will do is, I am going to take a little bit of Solvay. This happens to be by Sulky. It's Solvay that just washes away. Just spritz a little bit of water on it and it disappears. This is what we use when we're doing machine embroidery. But what this will do is, this will help keep my stitches also from getting buried down in my fabric, down in my pleats. So I'm just going to take a little piece of this, and when I start to stitch up here, I'm going to lay it on here. And that's exactly what I did on this. You probably can't see it, but see, I have it here. It will tear away or just wash away. It makes a world of difference when you start doing the embroidery. Okay, now I'm ready to start stitching on my fabric. First of all, I am going to choose, I have decided to use a stitch on my, I'm using my Designer SE, and I've decided to use a stitch in my heirloom stitches that looks just like, going up and down the heel. I also have chosen one that is just like doing your cable stitches on your hand smocking. Maybe not just like it, but hey, it's good enough for me. Just like on my hand smocking. So what I'm going to do first of all is I am going to try a row of the cable stitches and see what it looks like. I'm going to do a line of this, and then I'll go back and choose a different stitch until I see which one I really want to do. I'm kind of using this little pleating line as my guide. And this, of course, is not going to be exactly right at the end, but okay, see that? That looks pretty good to me. So, but now, sometimes I'm not good enough, and I don't know if anyone is, to try and do another line under here and keep it exactly right. Because remember, we're not in a lot of control of exactly the increments that it's doing it in, because we might be pushing our fabric a little too much or pulling it a little too much. So therefore, it wouldn't stay right in line with these tips. But there's another thing I can do. I can go in here and put my presser foot and make sure that it is on this line here and do a row of cables. And then if I want to, I can come back and put little stars like this and pretend they're flowers. Or I can even come in and choose the heart stitch on my sewing machine and maybe put some little hearts in it. We'll see how fancy we can get. But first of all, I'm going to do the cable stitch, and I want to make sure that my thread's always in the back. And I have a special little tip for you. When you're putting your thread on the sewing machine, remember most all of our sewing machines have the spindle that is out of plastic. Well, sometimes this paper can be very tough. So I always advise my customers and my students to poke the hole with your scissors, because then you don't be putting pressure on your spindle and you lessen the chance of breaking it. I'll be giving you a few little tips as we go along. It's just, just stuff that we've tried through the years and found that they help, because we want to protect our sewing machines and keep them sewing nicely. We hate for them to have to go to the hospital. Oops, I'm sewing the same stitch. Okay, let's see how it looks, and I'll show you what I mean by the fact that it won't match up exactly right. Who knows, I might get lucky, but I don't think so. Now my machine has the automatic sensor foot lifter, but I'm taking it off. I have programmed it to not be on there because I want to be a little more in control myself. Now that doesn't look too awful bad, but I wonder, I don't think I could keep it going all the way around my circle, because see, on my bishop I'm going to have to curve around here, and I don't think I can keep it that straight, keep the points in real good form. Now I'm going to change my stitch, but first of all I'm going to write down that I'm using number 33, and that I have my stitch length at 20 for my design, and that I have my zigzag at 6.0. Okay, now I'm going to try my cable stitch here, and we're going to see how this looks. And remember, I told you I'm going to smock my whole thing in pink, so when I start really sewing